Wait. Somewhere in there I want to make a joke. No, awkwardly insert me saying, yeah, just like Judi Dench getting done talking about cats is like Nick trying to get done talking about Greystoke. That was my good joke. Remember? Because you kept saying you were done talking about Greystoke, and then you keep talking about it.
I have a whole other Tarzan movie to talk about this week.
That's true. And
Greystoke has earned its Academy Award nominations. That it did get.
And another thing about Greystoke.
Welcome back to This Week in Film. It's the weekly podcast where we get together and talk about the movies we've seen over the past 7 days. I'm Nick Panunto, joined as always by Midwest Matt Lauer. Matt, how is it going?
It's going great, Nick. Sounds like it's going really well for you. How are you?
I've had a few. It is Monday night after all. So Matt, you live in the Illinois greater area, and you've been on government-mandated work release. How many movies have you seen?
I've seen one movie, Nick.
What
I've ended up being very busy.
Please tell me it was Cats.
No. I told you, I had no interest in seeing either of the movies you tried to tell me I had to watch. I watched a movie called ITonya.
What? You watched the Tonya Harding movie instead of Cats?
I don't see why that's difficult to believe.
I begged you to watch Cats.
I don't care.
You watched Tonya Harding.
I sure did.
Oh, God. Well, I have seen so many movies this week.
I'm guessing one of them was Cats.
Because I have also been on government-mandated work release.
Well, I still have to work.
I don't, because my work is very on-site dependent.
Yeah.
Although I could probably do it from my house using the powers of the internet, but that's not just not set up. I create television. You help people with their brains. And those are just everywhere.
They go wherever the people go.
Just all over the ground. So I have seen 5 movies this week. I have seen Cats from 2019. I have seen Tarzan, the Ape Man from 1981. I have seen Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom.
Oh my.
From 2018. And I have seen Outbreak from 1995. Finally,
I was going to say, I thought that was only 4. Go ahead.
Finally, I have seen Contagion from 2011.
Oh, good grief. Well, although I only watched one movie this week, I can share a little discussion with you about most of these movies. Well,
yeah, you've seen
the majority of them. Yeah.
So I am going to do, because before Matt and I got on the telephone machine to talk to each other, I had assumed that Matt had seen like 10 movies this week, and we were going to have a 4-hour show. So I was going to limit us to 7 minutes per movie. And I'm going to stick with that, because I think it'll keep us on track. All right, so I'm hitting the start button now. So Cats from 2019, directed by Tom Hooper. This movie stars a whole bunch of people. What a travesty. What a disaster of a film.
At least it wasn't the butthole cut.
I don't know if that would have made it better or worse. I really don't. The fact that they didn't have buttholes was distracting.
Really?
I found it distracting, yeah. Because their asses are on screen the whole time. In fact, the day after we watched it, I made my kids watch the first 20 minutes of it just to see how they would react. Like, I literally watched them watch it, because I just wanted to see their reactions. One of them was very scared. The other one was my son, who is the oldest, and he just looked at me and goes, thumbs down. He just goes, no. And the middle two were just kind of like, I like it. And one of them just said, I like it because her sister said it. And the other one said it because she got to look at the phone and tablet for any particular period of time. And this movie is insane. You cannot, and I mean this, you cannot imagine how bad it is.
Well, were you familiar with the musical ahead of time? Like, had you ever heard it or seen it?
I've heard the music from it, and I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
I just never liked it. It sounds an awful lot like, a lot of the stuff sounds a lot like Jesus Christ Superstar, and I can't stand that show. I just don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
There is Andrew Lloyd Webber stuff that I like. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Like Fan of the Opera, I like quite a bit. I think that's very good. And he's got a few other things that I do like, but I can't think of them offhand. But this has a very huge Jesus Christ Superstar feel to it, especially just the music that's played. And I just don't like it.
Did you know what you were in for in terms of like that it doesn't really have much of a plot, but it's like a lot of people just introducing themselves and sort of having a walk on, sing their song and walk off kind of thing?
I did know that. And I did know that for the movie, they tried to create a narrative for it that would combine all of the plots together.
Oh.
And instead, all I got was the word jellicle. I got the word jellicle about 450 times.
Did they ever say what it means?
Nope. No, they don't. And what's really funny is that my wife and I watched it. My wife had seen this on Broadway, and she loved it. She thought it was wonderful on Broadway.
Uh-huh.
And she thought that they were saying angelical the whole time, which makes sense.
Because it's a word.
And two, it implies that like the heaviside layer implies to just heaven, maybe, or you know, anything instead of just nonsense. And instead it's just nonsense to take up time. And this was terrible. You cannot tell someone how bad this was. You really can't. You could tell them it was bad. Like, you and I have seen our fair share of really bad movies and movies that defy the imagination. Like, how could they have thought, oh, so many.
See, Ultraviolet was the first one that came to mind to me for some reason.
But at least but remember the beginning of that? Remember the hope
the first
we had
5 minutes, we thought it was
the first 5 minutes
movie.
where we were both like, I think this is awesome.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the movie happened.
Yeah.
This never had that 5 minutes where you're just like, what's going on? All these cats look exactly the same. Why are some of these cats really sexy? Why are some cats magicians? Is that the same cat that we just saw? No, that's a different cat. Why does Idris Elba wear a coat? Oh my God, he took the coat off. Oh my God, it's the scariest thing I have ever seen because they forgot to animate his body.
What?
Yeah,
so his body
kidding.
just looks like a big old salamander or something?
Yeah, it does. It just looks like a blurry brown thing.
So it's just like unrendered?
Yeah. Or they rendered it, but they didn't put all their effort into it. It's like they made half of the movie.
You know what I
watched
imagine? Because I actually haven't seen many clips from this. I've heard people talk about it more than I've seen pieces of it. But what I'm imagining right now is that one short clip from What We Do in the Shadows where the guy transforms into animals, but like for half a second he's a cat, but he's still got Jermaine's face.
You're not wrong.
Okay.
Except What We Do in the Shadows is excellent.
Oh, yeah, that's a great movie.
And this just goes on forever and ever and ever. I will say the second half is better than the first half.
Why is that?
I think I hated every song in the first half. I like they just did not work for me. I just don't like them. And then the second half starts, and there are a couple of songs here and there where I'm like, I like this song. The music's good. The lyrics are good. The production value is very good. And then apparently the song that I like the most is, oh God, I can't remember what it was, but I guess the main character sings it after
Memory?
Jennifer Hudson Cat. No.
Oh.
After Jennifer Hudson Cat sings Memory for the second time.
She sings it twice?
Oh, yeah. She sure does, because that's all they got. But she sings this other song that apparently was written by Taylor Swift and Andrew Lloyd Webber. And I'm like, and before I knew that, I was like, oh, I really enjoy this song. This is a really good song. So that was really good. And the performance that the lead actress gave was quite good. And like, that was my favorite part of the movie, was that song that I can't remember the name of. And it's something about ghosts, I think. Oh, there's the timer on our movie. I'm going to keep talking because I'm on a roll here. I make the rules, I can break them. And so she sings this song. Jennifer Hudson's like, wow, that was great. I guess I'll come with you. And then Judi Dench sends her to heaven or something. I don't know. This musical makes no sense.
Well, what was the best part?
That part I just talked about.
Okay.
And you know why? Because it was just this woman singing to the camera. It very much felt like the guy who directed this movie directed Les Mis. And I think my favorite part in Les Mis is that scene where Anne Hathaway has like that medium close-up shot of her. And she just sings that, I said, Cosette, I love you very much. Maybe that's not the song. I forget the name. It's not Castle on a Cloud. The girl sings Castle on a Cloud.
Right.
It's the song Anne Hathaway sings before she dies. Spoiler alert. I think that's my favorite part of that musical and of that movie. And Anne Hathaway does a great job. And this movie feels a lot like that in that moment where they're not trying to do all this weird cat stuff. And on top of it, like this weird, we're from the perspective of a cat, because that is all over the place this whole movie. They try to establish real quick that, we are cats in this movie. We're little kitty cats. So everything is real big to us, except for when it's conveniently not. And you're like, okay, so this thing is small. All right, now it's really big. So like we go into this one house and a table is really small. And then we go into this other house and a bed, like a sleeping bed, is the biggest thing you've ever seen. And then bed. Yeah, like a sleeping bed.
As opposed to what?
A dinner bed.
Okay.
Where do you eat?
I got nothing. I wanted to come up with like an eating couch or something.
And so like the perspective is all out of whack. There's this other sequence when they're on a train, because this one cat's talking about being a train cat, and they go from being the size of the train door to smaller than the tracks on the train. It's like they didn't know how big a cat was.
They just didn't scale
this movie.
Like,
yes, the scale
consistently.
Oh my God, it's so confusing, and they get it wrong in every scene. And the one scene of this movie I like is just because it's a close-up of this lady's face. I would say that the fact that they're not wearing costumes and that it's all CGI cat stuff is terrible. What a terrible decision. They should have realized that on day 3, maybe, and just
like
gone,
just to put people in makeup like they do in the musical.
In the Broadway thing,
yeah.
Because the Broadway thing, after I watched this movie, I watched some YouTube clips of the Broadway show, and I thought to myself, oh, this is better. This is way better than that movie, because 1, I know it's people, and 2, they're in costumes, and for whatever reason, like the way, like the costumes aren't skin tight like all these cat CGI suits are. So like when people move around, the suit moves around their arms, which adds like movement to the fur and stuff like that. It just adds this level of motion without having to animate it.
Okay, so it doesn't get like overly moved.
Correct. And in this movie, they all have tails. They don't have buttholes, but they all have tails. And the whole time you're watching them like dance, because this one cat does ballet, other cats are doing flips and stuff. And this cat's doing ballet, and you're like, she should be using her tail for balance here. Whereas instead, she's just kind of like acting like the tail is in the way.
Wait, I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Does the Ian McKellen cat do ballet?
The Ian McKellen cat does not do ballet, but he was an excellent part of the movie. Okay. He was fantastic. I really enjoyed Ian McKellen's scene. It's kind of screwed up at the end by the magician cat, because there's a magician cat.
Aren't there 2?
Well, Idris Elba also knows magic, but he's not like the magician cat.
Oh, okay.
Judi Dench is in this. She plays the old cat who sends the cats to cat heaven. And at the end of the movie, for about 10 minutes, she just stares at the camera and lectures you about cats.
I am not sorry at all that I did not watch this.
You should watch
Shut
it. Like,
up. Nope.
I'm not kidding.
Gonna happen. Quit barking.
You should watch it, because it is impossibly bad. Like, I cannot.
Well, if I were gonna watch it, the only time I would have watched it was if I was watching it with you at your place or something. I am not doing that on my own.
I will watch this again.
I am not just Karina through it either.
I will watch this just to watch you watch it. The end sequence where Judi Dench is lecturing you about cats ends as many times as the third Lord of the Rings movie.
Oh, God.
Like she's doing like a rhyming verse, and she goes, and cats don't like to be patted on hats with their fats and their mats and their shats. And she stops for the audience to applaud because what she said was so clever. And then she starts talking again and again and again. And meanwhile, it looks kind of like an Avengers movie does, where you can tell they didn't record or film all the actors on the same day. So they all have that like look of, all right, I'm hearing the director say the audio of this character and I'm reacting. Okay, and I imagine the cut is now. Great, I'm done. And so that happens like 2 or 3 times where the main character is like sitting, quote unquote, behind Judi Dench, just making faces. I cannot express to you how terrible this movie is. There are no words. Everything I've said to you pales in comparison to actually spending like 5 minutes watching this movie. 5 minutes into watching this movie, I was like, I am so uncomfortable and I want to leave.
How do you want to see this?
You got to see it. You have to see it. You have no choice in this matter. You must watch this.
I'll just never come back to Delaware. Nick's going to make me watch Cats.
All right, so I'm way over time on Cats.
Mm-hmm.
My 7 minutes turned into 20. Tarzan, the Ape Man, from 1981, the year we were born.
That's true.
Directed by John Derek, starring his wife, Bo Derek, and Richard Harris and Miles O'Keefe plays Tarzan, and John Philip Law is this other guy. And then there are other people in this movie. Most of them are African people, and they don't even make the cast list on IMDb, which should tell you an awful
Not a
lot.
Good sign.
Nope, no, it's not. This movie, you know what? I will say, for about the first 40 minutes, is just kind of a boring African adventure movie where you're just kind of like, okay, we're on this adventure. Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. But everything looks nice. Like you can tell they filmed this. I don't know if they actually filmed it in Africa. I didn't look into it at all. But it looks great. And Bo Derek is gorgeous. And Richard Harris is very good in this movie. I will say Richard Harris is very good in this movie. He plays James Parker.
Well, is Bo Derek actually good in it?
No.
Okay, because this is something I've never understood. I don't know that I've ever seen anything with Bo Derek in it, but I hear her referenced a lot. Like, oh yeah, she used to get naked in movies and be gorgeous. And I'm like, I don't even know who she is. Like, I know that she has dreadlocks in a movie, but I don't think I've ever seen her in anything. So I just kind of wondered if she just wasn't very good.
My first introduction to Bo Derek was Tommy Boy, back with Chris Farley and David Spade. And I love that movie. That movie's great. But she plays Chris Farley's dad's stepmom. Like, he gets married and then Chris Farley's dad dies at the wedding. And spoiler alert for Tommy Boy, Bo Derek's just in it for the con. Her and her son Rob Lowe are trying to rob Chris Farley's family blind. Like, that's the plot of the movie, or the secret plot. And she's good looking in that movie, but she's like 1994 Bo Derek, whereas this is 1981 Bo Derek, and she looks great. She looks great. There's no getting around it. She does have a wicked case of sunburn the entire time. And some scenes it's worse than in others, where you can just tell when they shot what, because her face is just blistering red. But she's got a great body, so good for Bo Derek. But she is the worst actress you have ever seen.
Okay.
Ever. And for the first 35 minutes, you don't really notice, because she doesn't really have a whole lot to do. She just kind of is strong-willed. But then she meets Tarzan. This Tarzan movie, by the way, Tarzan doesn't show up until almost halfway through it. And this movie is an hour and 55 minutes. So like just about an hour into this movie, Tarzan shows up while Jane is taking a naked bath in the ocean. And it's at this moment, like the movie up until that point was, well, this is just kind of boring, but it's not terrible. Like, I don't understand why this, oh my God, now I get it. like it's the minute she meets Tarzan, it turns into a completely different movie.
Okay.
I thought that this movie was just gonna end up being softcore porn, basically, from the descriptions that I've had of it.
Uh-huh.
And it's not really that bad. Like I said, like, it's Bo Derek, so like every chance they get to get her wet in her white dress, they take. But it's until she meets Tarzan that the movie doesn't get kind of explicit. And even then, it's just a bathing woman. And for that, it's just kind of like, cool, hot chick naked. Okay, tired of this now. Tell me a story. And then all of a sudden, all these African people show up, and they're like the painted people. They're all like, out of nowhere, this tribe shows up, and they're all colorful.
Oh no, are they the bad guys?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, and their leader is clearly the guy in charge of their tribe is a white man in blackface.
Oh no.
And it is unbelievable. It's not like the worst blackface you ever seen, and you're not entirely sure they're doing blackface. He's just painted. But like at the same time, you're like, this guy's supposed to be an African guy, but this is a white guy. And this doesn't feel right. Yeah. Also, John Derek is a terrible director. So earlier in the movie, at one point, Tarzan fights a snake. There's like this big boa constrictor snake fight where Jane gets captured by this boa constrictor and Tarzan rescues her. And it turns into this weird LSD, slow motion, really slow cuts for about 6 minutes of him wrestling with this snake. And you're like, okay, this is terrible. See, I watched this movie before I watched Cats. so Cats really screwed me up with Tarzan because Tarzan was going to easily be at the bottom of my rankings. And now it can no longer be. That can no longer be because I watched Cats. So anyway, Jane and her father get reunited and then immediately captured by the painted men. I call them that because they all wear paint. They don't actually like have names. We don't hear anything about their tribe or anything like that. They're just locals in Africa while they're on their search for this elephant graveyard. And my wife Jill watched the second half of this movie. She showed up just as the turn happened when Jane got into the water. And I'm like, oh, you missed the beginning where it was boring, but boring. Like not oddly sexual, where there's like some weird incest thing going on with her and her dad. It gets so weird. There's so many levels to this movie. To focus on a few specifics, they get captured by the Ivory King, as he's called in the IMDb. And for the next 5 minutes, we have to watch Bo Derek get washed while hogtied, while they give her a shower. She's taking a shower while hogtied, like her hands and her legs are tied to the ground. She's on her hands and her knees, but like they're washing her and she's naked and the natives are washing her.
Scared? Or is she like, okay,
oh yeah,
with this? Oh, okay.
Very scared. She's crying and she's screaming for Daddy. Tell me a story.
What?
Tell me a story, Daddy.
What?
Yeah.
What? Why?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And Richard Harris starts screaming the poem Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall while she's being painted white for the Ivory King. She's being painted white, and these two natives are just really working on her boobs, like really painting her boobs with their hands, and she just keeps saying, "Help me, Daddy, help me, tell me a story, Daddy," and you're just like, what the hell is going on? And then Tarzan shows up, and every time Tarzan shows up, he does like the Tarzan yell, like the oh, yeah, but it's the one from the 30s, the Tarzan yell, when I made that noise.
Yeah.
It didn't sound like me. It sounded like the one from Old Timey, but they used that exact same clip. And this guy who plays Tarzan, played by Miles O'Keefe, who's a total hunk, who has no lines in this movie except for "oh," and he doesn't even get to say them because I think it's Johnny Weissmuller from the 30s who gets to say it. And he jumps in, and much like the snake fight, it's this weird LSD struggle for 6 minutes. And then eventually it just ends. And you're just like,
and that's the end
what?
of the movie?
No.
Oh.
No, it's not, Matt. It's not the end of the movie. It's not the end of the movie at all. You might think it's the end of the movie because the credits start.
What?
But it's... So Jane gets untied by Tarzan, and Jane goes over to this dude who was into her named Holt, and he's like being hung while sitting. Like his neck is like tied up to this pole or whatever. Like he's been incapacitated. And she goes, "Holt, you'll tell them what happened, right?" And Holt's like, yeah, I guess. And she goes, "Okay." And then she just runs off with Tarzan. And she just leaves him. She just leaves him. And then we get this weird... And when I say weird, there are no words to describe the credit sequence of this movie. Where basically, Bo Derek gets sexually assaulted many, many times by an orangutan. And
During the credits.
I don't mean during the credits. And I don't mean like she gets like penetrated or like physically raped, but this orangutan knows what's up and he's going for it. And she's just like, "Oh, you silly orangutan, knock it off." And she tries to get away, and it grabs her by the ankles and pulls her back in. And Tarzan's just sitting there laughing, just laughing. And it goes on. You cannot imagine how long it goes on for. It's
during the credits.
The entire credits. We even learned that the orangutan that is molesting this lady, his name is CJ. I'm pretty sure it's CJ.
All right, then.
I cannot explain it other than the fact that John Derek
allegedly
just wanted to see his wife get molested by this orangutan many times.
Well, I don't want to watch either of the movies that you saw.
I don't want to watch them either. I will send you a clip of the end sequence, though, because you have to see it. I will send it to you. But it is impossible to describe with words what you're seeing, where you're just like, what? And it goes on for so long. And you can tell that she knows there's like a few times where like she sort of breaks character, where she's like, "Stop it," and tries to get away and can't. And the monkey pulls her back in.
Yeah, I don't
or
know.
Ape. I don't know if an orangutan is a monkey.
It's an ape. Monkeys.
It's an ape. Well, that's a good trick to know. That'll come in handy with my conversation on Outbreak.
Excellent.
And I guess Jurassic World, because those things have tails too. All right, so that's it for Tarzan. I don't have anything more to add than that, probably.
Okay. So wait, the other 3 movies we're going to spoil. So should I do ITonya first?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So ITonya stars Margot Robbie as Tonya Harding, Sebastian Stan as Jeff Gillooly, her boyfriend and husband for some portions of the movie.
Gillooly. That's what David Letterman would say all the time.
I didn't watch David Letterman. Allison Janney plays Lavana, Tonya Harding's mother. And then Paul Walter Hauser plays Sean, Jeff Gillooly's friend. And this movie is I mean, it's not a comprehensive biography, but it's giving you more of Tonya Harding's life than just like her time as a young adult skating and her older teenager. So you really get to see like her relationship with her mom, which is really terrible, and a lot of like her relationship with Jeff Gillooly. And
Gillooly. That's what David Letterman would say all the time.
Didn't watch David Letterman. Yeah. So this was a good movie. It's really highlighting how much of a sad life Tonya Harding had. And I mean, I didn't remember a ton of the whole Tonya Harding thing, you know, like when Nancy Kerrigan was attacked when they were both getting to the Olympics. I mean, I was aware of it. Back around that time, like my dad and stepmom were watching the Olympics and stuff. So, is mildly aware of it, I guess, as much as you might be in early high school, maybe, or maybe middle school.
Than that.
Yeah, maybe
like
middle school.
Was it like 92?
Some of the stuff's in 91. I think something's in 94. That might be when the Olympics actually were. So I don't really know how in the loop I was, but I basically knew that, Nancy Kerrigan had been attacked and Tonya Harding had something to do with it. And a lot of the coverage, and maybe I'm thinking more after the fact, I feel like maybe at the time, you might be able to correct this a little bit because you were alive too.
So according to the internet, it was 1994 is when Nancy Kerrigan got whacked in the leg.
Okay. And that is just around the time that my memory got really fuzzy. But
that's right.
But
Matt's brain stopped working at one point.
It's something like that. But I feel like
never started.
What?
Huh?
Yeah, okay. So at the time, I think people really made it sound like Nancy Kerrigan was this sweet girl who was attacked for, I don't want to say no good reason, because it's not like she should have been attacked, but like they really made her out to be this great person. And then like later, I think stuff came out that was like, nah, she was kind of a jerk. She didn't deserve to have her knees bashed in. But the whole narrative about her being great and Tonya Harding being bad was more like, she was kind of a jerk, but Tonya Harding was still pretty bad. This movie puts Tonya Harding into context where basically you're like, I don't see any way this woman could have ended up any differently than she seemed to. It's like, man, the path was really being paved for things to just go terribly. Whether it's her or the people around her, it's just a recipe for disaster. And as you're watching it, as I was watching it, there was a lot of the movie where it seemed really over the top. But, at the beginning of the movie, it's like, look, this stuff is based on interviews with these people and information that is not done ironically. And they do cuts back and forth between these interviews, which are reenacted by Margot Robbie and the others, and the events as they're playing out in the movie, in a forward chronology. So it keeps kind of reminding you that this is really how this happened. And it's weird. It's got a lot of humor in it, but it's also a really dark story because it's just such a crappy life she lived. But the attitude everyone has, including her, Jeff Gillooly, her mom, and there's something about everybody's attitude about it where it's just so, it's the world they live in. So they don't seem particularly upset about it. And in a way, it's even sadder, but in a way, it also makes some things pretty funny. So it's kind of an interesting movie in terms of like making an argument for determinism and how you might be kind of stuck in a place that you're in or on a path that you're on. But it is pretty entertaining, and I don't know. I would say as far as the story goes, I guess it does sort of have a climax because, even in the movie, they're like, here we are getting around to this whole thing that happened. It's why you came in the first place. We might as well talk about it. So I guess there is sort of a climax in a way of this event happening, but the movie's pretty steady. It's pretty just like, it's kind of got one tone throughout the whole movie.
Forgive me if you said this. Are they interviewing Tonya Harding and all too? And Nancy Kerrigan, or are they just referencing old interviews that they all gave?
They're reenacting. So it kind of cuts back and forth between the events being acted out and then like Tonya Harding, as portrayed by Margot Robbie, giving an interview in more current times.
Okay.
So and at some point there are clips from the interviews, and you're like at the very end, and it's like, oh, okay, so that is what that actually sounded like. It's really the character, what did I say, Sean, who's probably the weirdest dude. Like he's trying to convince people that he's a spy and stuff. And it's pretty clear he's just kind of like a pathological liar who believes his own lies. He's kind of delusional.
This is the guy that did the attack?
Sort of. It's kind of the guy who organized it. And to hear his interview, he's like, yeah, so, I've worked with international spy units. And the person interviewing him, like the reporter's like, but you're not. And he's like, oh, well, yeah, but I am. He's like, yeah, but you're not. He's like, but I am. And it's one, like I said, you feel a bit like it might be overdone or over the top, but there's something about it where you're like, I don't know. know. This feels so specific that it must have gone down this way. And then at the end, you see a clip of it and you're like, yeah, that's pretty much right. If you're curious at all, I would definitely say check it out. At the very beginning of the movie, I wasn't sure I was going to enjoy it because, like I said, I was kind of unsure of Margot Robbie before Bombshell. And at the beginning of this, for a few minutes, I was like, oh no, this sounds kind of like Harley Quinn light. I'm not sure I'm really going to enjoy this, and I'm not really sure I'm going to enjoy her performance. But by the end of the movie, I was like, man, she's really good. There are a couple scenes where some of the more vulnerable emotions do show up. Most of the time, Tonya Harding's just pretty hard. But in the moments where she's kind of breaking down, Margot Robbie does a really, really good job. And really, everybody in the movie's good. So as far as like performance goes, I'd say it's maybe more performance than it is story. But the humor that's in there is just this weird kind of strange angle kind of humor where it just hits you in a weird place. And it'll be a serious situation, but some of the people are just so stupid that what they're saying ends up being really funny. So yeah, if you're looking for kind of a weird movie, check it out.
That's interesting. I never really had a drive to see it before you said to check it out. I feel like I know everything I need to know about the Tonya Harding thing. Like, I know Nancy Kerrigan isn't America's sweetheart, or, I mean, she was, but like, she's not like a super great person, but nobody is. And then Tonya Harding's not like the cold, hard monster the media made her out to be, but nobody is. But at the same time, she did orchestrate an attack on somebody so that she wouldn't be able to compete with her in the Olympics. So I got a lot of trouble trying to feel any sympathy for Tonya Harding, even if that's not what the movie's going for. It's just trying to tell the story.
I think it does kind of go for that, though. I think it does go for some humanizing her and sympathizing with her. Not for the attack part, although that is, at least as it's portrayed in the movie, not quite what you might have walked away from back in the 90s. You know, you might remember it as something like she wanted to have this done to Nancy Kerrigan. And at least the movie's version of events is definitely more not that.
The boyfriend wanted it done more than her, or?
Well, see, I don't want to spoil too much. But I'd say, yeah, it's a little more complex and peripheral. Again, at least as the story's being told by her and by the movie. And I think she does end up being not someone you necessarily would want to be around, but more of an empathetic character. You can appreciate a fair amount about her skating too, because it's not a movie where they stop to teach you about skating, but you do get a peek into what it's like to try to do that and what the system that's in skating is like, at least the critical version of it. And that's kind of interesting. And I was wondering, and Karina and I were watching this together, like over Skype, because I'm on quarantine right now. But we both were wondering as the movie was playing, like, did Margot Robbie learn how to skate for this? Like, how much of this is her? How much of it's, CGI plastering her face on other people? And there are a lot of scenes while she's skating where it seems like they purposely went through the trouble of making sure you could see her face. When I looked at it online, it looked like she did like a few months worth of training. So I think there's probably enough to be able to show her moving on the ice and to show that they can sort of scan up her body and go like, look, it's actually her moving around. But then the real tricks and stuff, I think they just kind of CGI her face onto a skater. There are a couple scenes where really big moves are going on and it's in slow motion and it seems as though it's a different body. There are certain like muscle groups that are just really
engaged.
Different. Yeah, like it's almost like there's one point where she's doing this spin and her thighs and her butt are like super muscular, and it kind of reminded me of like horse muscles in a way. And I was like, she just isn't shaped that way through. I mean, I think it's what a skater would be shaped like, to have these really powerful muscles there.
Yeah, and like a skater would have like monster legs.
Yeah, and in the other scenes, she doesn't seem built quite that way. So
yeah, it's like Margot Robbie doesn't have a swimmer's body, but could be a swimmer in a movie. And when they show her in the movie, there would be a different person doing the swimming action.
Yeah, but I think there is enough of her, with her learning to skate however much she did, to still make it work just fine if you're not paying attention. I just got really curious about it. So I think I was paying a lot of extra attention because I was really wondering how much of it was her. So
well, that's good that you're able to I guess you weren't able to lose yourself yourself in it because you were watching it, but like the fact that you questioned whether or not it was her is pretty interesting and shows the dedication to the craft, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they could have probably
wasn't this in
where she just wasn't on the ice herself at all, but that probably
was this in
sucked.
An HBO movie?
I don't think so. I think it was out in the theaters.
Oh, okay. That's weird. What a weird theatrical thing. Like, I don't think people would go to see that.
Well, I remember when I first heard of it, I was a bit surprised that there was a Tonya Harding movie. So, yeah, I get what you're saying. But maybe it's because she was back in the public eye a little bit with like her, I think she was on some reality TV show or something, and she had become a female boxer at some point.
Oh, yeah. No, I watched that happen when she was on Celebrity Boxing. I watched that.
Oh, it was Celebrity Boxing. Okay.
I watched that entire series. I think there was like 4 episodes. It was amazing.
Really?
And not in a good way.
Okay.
Like really uncomfortable. Like these people are hitting each other because they need money in a way that's different than boxers. Like actual boxers are also hitting each other because they need money, but they know how to do it. Whereas these people were just like, I'm going to hit you and try not to get hit because I need money. It's like a weird dichotomy.
Like
where
more exploitative?
Oh, absolutely. Unbelievably so. And Tonya Harding's at the top of the list. But like that kind of feeling where you're like, oh, no, I would love to change the channel, but the remote is right next to me. That's a lot of effort. I will not change the channel. And you're like, well, like they got me. And so you fall to it. But I did have a question because based on what I said earlier about how it doesn't like put Tonya Harding in a great light, but a question plot wise is, did Tonya Harding know what was going on, or did they do this around her and she was just as shocked as everyone and then got stuck in the middle of it?
Do you really want me to answer that?
I really want you to answer that.
Okay, well, the movie and I guess her testimony would strongly suggest that she really had no idea it was going to be some sort of physical attack. There are a couple times in the movie where this idiot guy, Sean, is trying to talk with her husband about it, and this guy Sean is trying to bring her into the conversation, and she's like, I don't care, stop bringing up stuff about trying to scare this woman. I just want to skate. Mm-hmm. So I mean, the movie's pretty adamantly pushing for that she didn't know that it was going to happen. So yeah, I don't think there's a way while you're watching the movie to try to determine how reliable their narration of it is, but it definitely puts her in a pretty innocent position.
It is an interesting story. I mean, like, this is my second swimming reference in 5 minutes, but it'd be like Ryan Lochte trying to break Michael Phelps's leg so he could get a gold medal, or people who represent Ryan Lochte breaking Michael Phelps's leg so he could get a gold medal. Those are the only 2 swimmers I can think of.
I've never even heard of the one that's not Michael Phelps.
Yeah, he's the American one who got arrested for lying. He's the Tonya Harding of swimming, but he's a guy, so, you know, it's just guy stuff. But at least he was never a part of an assault on a woman at work, so, or a woman in general. Ryan Lochte's got that going for him.
For now.
So, way to go, Rye Guy. All right, is that all you have for ITonya?
Yep.
All right, well then let's move into Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. From 2018. Directed by J.A. Bayona, stars Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, and other people are also in this. Funnily enough, you remember last week we talked about that movie, The Ritual? Or the week before we were talking about that movie, The Ritual?
Yeah.
The dude from The Ritual is the bad guy in this movie.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I didn't realize that till my wife pointed it out. And he's an actor by the name of Rafe Spall. And forget that because he's terrible in this movie. James Cromwell is also in this. Ted Levine. Jeff Goldblum shows up. B.D. Wong is in it. And what the hell? What the hell was this movie? How could this have happened?
I'm going to assume that at the top of that list of complaints implied there is the dinosaur winking at the camera.
Oh, you mean when Ted Levine's about to get his arm bitten off?
Yeah.
Where the dinosaur smiles?
Yep, it's like total fourth wall break by a dinosaur.
Yeah. I even rewound it because my wife was like 20 minutes into this movie. Jill says, I am not watching this movie. Please turn this off.
Jill.
And I said, I'm not turning this off because I've come this far. We're 20 minutes in. I have to finish it. And she goes, fine. And she just gets on her phone. And then 2 hours later, we get to that scene where Ted Levine is in the raptor, the super raptor cage.
Yeah.
The Indoraptor's cage, and he's trying to remove its tooth, and the raptor's tail goes up in the air, and he's like, huh? What's that? And he turns around, and he's like, was that a great big old fat person? Because that's what he says in Silence of the Lamb, which is his most famous movie. It's a great impression. And the raptor smiles. It smiles, and I rewound it and played it for my wife without describing it to her, and she goes, did that raptor just smile? And I started laughing.
Yeah.
My God.
I don't
My
know.
God.
I don't know what they're going for. This franchise has gone so far off the rails.
See, I liked Jurassic World. Like, it was fine.
Yeah.
It was fine. Like, it wasn't terrible,
was
but it
bad.
wasn't great. I mean, it was bad, but it was like a good kind of bad where I was like, the nostalgia of it, I was kind of like, all right, you got me. You got me, movie. I'm on board. And lots of people are dying. So many people are dying. This is fun. We're having fun. Oh, the kids are back. Please kill one of the kids. They're both alive.
Never gonna happen.
She's in high heels still. Why wouldn't she just break the heels off of the shoe? Okay, she's running around. The T-Rex is here. Giant ocean monster, and the movie's over. And you're like, nostalgia still got me. Because, as I've said before, Jurassic Park, mwah, number one. That's a work of art that has yet to be seen in this world. This movie is the opposite of that.
Yeah.
And you saw this in theaters, so perhaps you noticed more than me, but they used all the sound effects from the first Jurassic Park movie. I didn't realize how many sound effects, like how much Foley work I would recognize from that movie in this movie. And it is all of it.
I don't remember. I believe you, but it might have been hard to hear over my loathing and hatred.
I don't know how you were able to sit through this entire thing. You did see this in theaters, right? Like, I'm not.
You are correct.
That.
Yeah, no, I saw it in theaters.
Yeah. How could you have sat through this entire thing?
Well, I saw it with Karina and my friend DePolly, who I will go see these sorts of movies with. Like, I saw Godzilla and Godzilla King of the Monsters and Lost World and Lost World this one. So we just kind of, that's the deal. We'll watch bad. I think she wanted me to go see Hobbs and Shaw too, but that ain't happening.
Well, you don't have the backstory, so.
Right, yeah, that's my excuse.
You should watch all those movies, though. It's like finding religion.
I got no interest. Look, if there were a monster in it, it'd be a different story. But there
might be.
No thanks. So I went with them, and that's how I got through it.
Because there was one point where I think I stood up and yelled at my TV.
That sounds about right.
I was just so mad, and I was just like, what the hell is going on? Like, I figured out, so Matt and I have both seen this, so spoilers for this awful, awful, awful movie. I also watched this after Cats and after Tarzan the Ape Man. So
you had a long week.
What the hell, man? I mean,
well,
like
okay, so here,
let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
Like,
so they're deciding to let the island destroy itself and trying to determine whether or not to save the dinosaurs.
Right.
Because there's a philosophical argument that this movie's all about.
There's an ethical question there. Like, do you let nature destroy these things a second time? And, all right. I understand the ethical dilemma there, sure. I don't know why Jeff Goldblum is making it, because he's clearly made the anti-dinosaur case many times before. He had a whole second movie to make it again. I don't know why he's there except to be in the trailer. Like, they must have had Jeff Goldblum for 6 hours and just let him talk and just recorded all of it and put it all in the movie.
Well,
like,
put 30 seconds of it in the movie,
I guess. But this next one is supposed to have him and Dr. Malcolm in it.
He is Dr. Malcolm.
I'm sorry. I meant to say Dr. Grant. Like, the third one's Dr. Grant's supposed to be in it somehow.
All right.
I'm like, what? Like, I just don't. But how could this happen? And the only hope that I have for this next Jurassic Park movie, because they're making it right. Well, they were making it until the virus shut the world down, is that it's going to be the lost fabled plot to Jurassic Park 4 with the dino-human hybrids, which is the point they're trying to make with the clone girl and the dinosaurs, where she's like, they're alive, so I'm alive. And I'm like, oh my God, we're going to get a movie with my dino men. That's going to happen. And then I got very excited because I would get to see that movie finally.
Oh, God.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't want to see that movie. But the fact that someone's going to put $200 million to pay for it so that I can see it makes me weirdly happy.
Oh, man.
That's how you know there is no God, because that's going to happen. And if it doesn't happen with this one, it'll happen with the next trilogy, because that's what happens with all of these Hollywood movies. If someone writes a script and Universal or Warner Brothers pays for it, eventually it will make it into the film because, God damn it, they paid for it. We're going to use it. And that's what happens with every movie that comes out of Warner Brothers. That's how we got Batman versus Superman, which was a movie that was supposed to come out in like 1999, directed by Wolfgang Peterson, which hilariously enough was the director of Outbreak, which I didn't realize before today.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for more Outbreak chat.
Well, so we were starting at the beginning, and you say, okay, well, there's a debate about whether or not to kill these dinosaurs.
No, you're missing the real beginning of the movie, where you have like the weird military expedition on the island to collect the skeleton of.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's like they're underwater stealing a tooth.
Yeah, and this whole scene actually pretty effective until the one guy is like, I can't hear you. What? You're waving towards yourself, but I can't hear you. I can't hear you over the sound of this dinosaur screaming behind me. What? There's a dinosaur I'm eating. And then the helicopter gets away, and you're just like, oh no. This was the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like the first 2 minutes where like there are a couple really good effective shots of that weird submarine moving around underwater, and you can see like the silhouette of the giant underwater monster that's alive for some reason. And you're like, ooh, that's pretty effective. And then all of a sudden you see it like swallow the submarine like a pill, and you're like, oh no. And then the Tyrannosaurus shows up. It eats that guy and then gives up on the other people. And then the giant fish monster eats the rest of the guy. And then the helicopter just gets away.
If we're going to go through everything that's terrible, we're going to be reliving this entire movie. So
Scene 2.
So some highlights of it being bad. So then they go to the island and the dinosaurs all die. And then you get to see this moment where you get to relive seeing the first brontosaurus, except this time it's dying. And then
no, you're missing. You're skipping the part where we see the brontosaurus for the first time, and the weird Asian girl who's on the boat for no reason other than to be a raptor veterinarian goes, I have to see this, and she jumps out of the armored vehicle, which would have done nothing against the foot of a brachiosaurus, and or whatever it is, because I think it has one of those holes in the head. It might be one of those things, the things that can breathe. No, the brachiosaurus didn't have the breathing hole in the top of the head.
Yeah.
Did it?
Yeah.
I thought that was a whole other thing. Anyway.
You might be thinking of an apatosaurus, but those didn't have it.
Oh. Okay, I've been wrong before. It's happened. So she's like, I gotta get out. And it's great that I watched Jurassic Park just a couple of weeks ago, because the scene where Dr. Grant and Dr. Sattler see the brachiosauruses for the first time is unbelievable.
Magical.
Yes. And it's Spielberg magic, and it's executed so well, and there's not for a moment that you doubt, hey, I'm looking at a dinosaur here. This is a dinosaur. Yes. This is a dinosaur across a lake, and it's beautiful, and it's magical, and I've always wanted to see this thing, and this is totally unexpected.
And even now, hang on, before you get to what this movie was like, even now when you watch that and you can see that the effects aren't as perfect as they seemed at the time, you still are there. You're still brought into it by sort of the majesty of it and the responses of the actors.
Yes, because the dinosaurs are the focus of the action that's happening in the frame. I watched a video on YouTube. I'm not entirely sure who made it, and forgive me for that. I'm really plagiarizing them, and so forgive me if I think of it. I'll try to put it in, or if I can find it. But the video that I saw really breaks down the two scenes where the dinosaurs in the Spielberg Jurassic Park take up like 90% of the screen, and the camera is so far.
Grant is like the size of your thumbnail,
right? And it really shows the scale of these animals. Whereas in this movie, the Asian girl who shouldn't be there is the focus of the scene, and we're just seeing behind her, and she takes up 90% of the screen, and the dinosaur takes up this tiny corner, and the scale is just so out of skew where you're like, the majesty of this animal is gone. You've lost me as a viewer. You screwed it up, especially compared to the Spielberg one, who had nothing to compare his shot against. How do you have the blueprint for making this shot and then screw it up? Except to do it deliberately.
And well, this new character is supposed to be pretty impressed by what's going on. And you're right, for some reason, taking up the whole screen for it. The rest of the people are just like, yeah, it's just a dinosaur. Like
no one else seems to care.
Not seem to care. No, they're like,
they don't care.
I've seen, look, man, I've seen dogs. And when I meet a dog, I still get really excited. I don't care.
Especially if that dog's excited to see you.
Yeah, I don't care if I've seen a dinosaur before. I am going to freak the heck out every time I see one.
Yeah. There's even the moment in the first Jurassic Park when they pull up and the dude driving Ian Malcolm's Jeep.
Harding.
You know the guy's name?
I'm pretty sure that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go with it. Sure. There is a look on his face like, this guy is never going to believe this.
Yeah.
Where even that guy is in awe of the spectacle that is in front of him.
Yeah. He's like watching them watch it like you watch me watch bad movies.
Exactly. And this movie misses that completely. Where Ted Levine, who it took me 3/4 of the movie to finally look it up on IMDb that it was Ted Levine, because I thought it was Liev Schreiber in old man makeup. and Ted Levine's just in the car, in the truck, just like, this is so boring. this dinosaur's in our way. Shoot, great big old fat dinosaur.
Oh, Lord.
Silence of the Lamb impression.
Yeah.
My Buffalo Bill impression is usually much better than that. I don't know what that last was.
That was more of a Fat Albert impression. So anyway, nobody cares that there's a dinosaur there.
No one cares that there are dinosaurs. They're just like, we're here on a job. I guess that's what Buffalo.
Okay, we're going to fast forward a little bit. Then the dinosaurs all die. Then some of them are taken off the island by a barge, and then they're sold in a rich guy's house who has a clone granddaughter, and then you find out that this dinosaur's been trained in such a way that if you want to injure someone, all you have to do is point a gun at them and then pull the trigger that shoots a light beam on them so the dinosaur can attack them.
No, you shoot
it's much more effective than a gun that shoots bullets.
You shoot a laser sight.
Dinosaur
you shoot
involved.
A laser sight at the target.
Right.
And the Super Indo Wrapper locks in on it. And then when you hit the sound effect button, which I believe is instant rap horn, the dinosaur will then attack. Which, the fact that they thought that this would work for military applications is insane. You, of course, need the dino-human hybrids, which are coming. They're coming. It's going to happen. I'm sure it's going to happen. Going back to the island, the only reason that our main characters from the first movie are in this movie is to get the lead raptor from the last movie in order to sell it. And they bring all these people there. They get Chris Pratt to get up to the dinosaur, up to the point where he's like petting it on the face, and the dinosaur's like, "Oh, hey, what's up, Chris Pratt? It's been a long time. I remember you. We're best friends." And Chris Pratt's like, "Yes, we are best friends, Raptor."
Blue.
And then someone shoots it. Yeah, Blue. And then someone shoots it, and Chris Pratt's like, "Everyone, chill the F out. And he's still got the raptor kind of under control. And then the raptor attacks this dude that pulls a gun on it. And then this guy shoots the raptor with one real bullet. He shoots it one time.
Yeah.
What? Like, I can see if you're being attacked by a raptor, and one, you have an automatic rifle in your hand, and it gets knocked from your hand, and you have a sidearm and you pull it. You're not firing that trigger one time. And also, one bullet is not going to stop a raptor from biting your head off. Like, you have to shoot that thing until it's dead.
I mean, probably.
No, I've killed so many raptors. It's just, that's what you have to do. There's no way. Like, you shoot it one time, and luckily you have a raptor doctor there.
Yeah.
And it's just, what nonsense was this movie? How could this movie have happened? How could they have made this? How could this have happened? How?
I don't know.
How?
I don't know.
It's insulting. It's disgusting. It's
boring.
It's boring as all hell. And the only twist that I thought they were going to throw at us was when the little girl goes up to James Cromwell and she says, "Grandpa, he's trying to steal dinosaurs." And James Cromwell was like, "Go to bed." I thought when she left the room, he was going to pick up the phone and go, "The girl knows too much.
Shoot her."
Yes, that would have been more appropriate. I'm not going to say better because nothing would make this better, but like at least it would have matched in with their stealing sound effects from other movies. And instead, the dude from The Ritual just comes in and smothers James Cromwell to death. And you're like, why is James Cromwell in this at all?
Well, and another thing that's just one of the weird things is the terrible evil plot is basically just to make money off of selling dinosaurs, which, to be honest with you, that's cool. That's fine. But
that was the whole point of the whole thing.
Yeah, but the cost of dinosaurs, surprisingly low.
Surprisingly low. That one dinosaur goes for like $4 million.
Yeah, I'm like, you know what? Cost of education for your psychology degree, not that much less expensive than a dinosaur.
Yeah, like that first dinosaur is like the Allosaurus, the tank one. And I'm like,
Ankylosaurus.
Ankylosaurus, I'm sorry, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'm like, that's a name brand dinosaur. I know what dinosaur that is. $4 million for a name brand dinosaur. That's like your Levi's of dinosaurs.
$4 million bucks. You should be getting one of those chicken-sized dinosaurs.
Right, exactly. For $4 million. Especially since these are the last ones, because everything else is dead now, apparently. Because we got to watch that last one appear on that dock and slowly melt in lava instead of going into the water chasing the boat with its giant neck where it can just stay above
just walk
water.
Through the water and
yeah.
Probably be more comfortable in the water anyway because it's a giant heavy animal and the water would support its weight.
Yeah. The other thing that pissed me off is I don't know a lot about volcanoes. I don't know a lot about dinosaurs. But I do know that when a volcano erupts, the thing that kills most people isn't the eruption or the fiery balls of lava that will hit you, but it's the gases that come out of the volcano.
Get poisoned by the polluted
I want
air.
to say pyroclastic flow, but I feel like that's almost right. But like that's like all the gases that you can't see that kill you before the shockwave even hits you or something. Like they melt you.
Well, you're just being a pessimist. You probably don't even believe that you can talk yourself out of being tranquilized.
I'll just pick my arm up that I can't move with my other arm that I can. Oh my God. How could anyone have seen this and gone, we're on the right track, keep going? like this is the Batman and Robin of this franchise.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I always thought Jurassic Park 3 was the dregs. And I'm not wrong, but at least Jurassic Park 3 is only like 87 minutes. And after you've watched it a few times, it's pretty passable where you're just kind of like, this is stupid fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun.
And
that's the big difference. That one's actually kind of fun.
Kind of fun. This one, not fun at all.
Nope.
There's no fun in this movie. The only fun part, I thought, was when Chris Pratt got the dinosaur with the big skull to smash through the wall. I was like, that's pretty funny. I was like, all right. But then it goes on for 5 minutes, and I'm like, okay. And then that thing shows up again 2 minutes later. I'm like, oh, really? That's all you got? The main villain of the movie shows up in the final act of the movie, the Indoraptor. It shows up in the final scene of the movie, practically. And then Blue the Raptor has to fight it. And then Blue the Raptor's like, I'm done fighting for you humans. I guess I'll just go kill regular people from now on. And then the plot from the Lost World starts. The plot from the end of the Lost World starts, where it's just these dinosaurs off in the wilderness, which is a horrible tragedy. So many people are about to die because that little girl goes, I'm alive, so they're alive. And I understand it's a tough decision for Bryce Dallas Howard to make. But, like, she makes the right decision by not hitting the button. But the fact that no one stops this little girl from hitting the button.
Well, they weren't looking that way. They were looking the other way.
Like,
and then she's like, well, they're alive. Like me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I would have been fine with you dying anyway.
You also should be dead.
The truth is, I came here to see awesome dinosaurs, and I want them dead so this stops happening.
And
you can die too. I don't care.
The very end of the movie is her parents now?
Like, the dinosaurs?
No. The little girl, but like...
Yeah.
Like, what?
I think they can probably ship her off to John Travolta from Face Off. He'll take another kid. He'll just be like, well, can we keep her?
Oh, Face Waterfall.
All right. Are we done?
With Jurassic World?
Yeah, can this movie die?
Till the sequel.
Yeah, all right.
And then we'll have to watch all 5 movies again.
Or
just the first one. Yeah, we'll have to watch all 5 before the 6th one comes out so that you have the complete story.
Well, I've definitely seen the first one more than any of the others, but I can tell you with absolute certainty that I've seen the third one the second most.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And that'll probably always be true.
Yeah, because the second one I haven't seen as much, which really gives it a shiny side. The Lost World really gives it a shiny little polish to it because you haven't seen it as much.
No, there's a reason.
And you're always like, oh, that second one was okay.
No.
It's not.
No, I've never thought that. I hated that movie from the first time I saw it. And it's not quite as ridiculous and stuff to be fun like the third one, but it's got a whole extra hour to it. So it just sucks and is boring too. It's not quite as bad as Fallen Kingdom, but it's in there. It's probably the one I want to watch the least after Fallen Kingdom.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. All right. So until the next Jurassic Park adventure, we're moving on to Outbreak. Now, this is part of my Coronathon, 2020.
Wow.
Outbreak is from 1995, which is what I was trying to say before, directed by Wolfgang Peterson. It stars Dustin Hoffman, Rene Russo, Morgan Freeman, Kevin Spacey, Cuba Gooding Jr., and Donald Sutherland. Patrick Dempsey is also in this movie, and he plays like the dude who starts everything, which I didn't realize until today. But I love this movie. I love this movie so much. This is one of my favorite movies of all time, and it is 2 hours and 7 minutes and could easily be under 90 if you get rid of the love story, if you get rid of the government conspiracy story, and it's just a story about these doctors trying to solve this mystery and get the cure. You got yourself a solid 90-minute movie there, but you lose all the cool helicopter stuff in the third act. And I love all that helicopter stuff. It's so terrible and so corny, but I'm like, this is amazing. I am on board. I think Dustin Hoffman is outstanding in this movie. Rene Russo is great. Morgan Freeman cared back into 1995, so he's really good in this movie. Donald Sutherland was never in as many movies as he should have been. Like, a movie movie narrated by Donald Sutherland and Morgan Freeman would be the best movie of all time.
You could have like a dueling voices thing going on.
Yeah, where they just take turns. Oh, that would be great. Cuba Gooding Jr. is in this movie, and this is pre-Academy Award Cuba Gooding Jr., where he was like really good, and you're like, oh, this guy's really got something to offer, before he just gave up.
I've been hearing stories lately about how Cuba Gooding Jr. likes to like allegedly get up on women at clubs, allegedly, and finger their buttholes.
Well, who doesn't like to do that?
I don't know.
So, there's going to be a hot drop of allegedly at the beginning. Yeah, I don't know what happened to him. He was really good for like 3 years. He's in like all these really good movies, and then he just snow-dogged it.
I was just going to say Snow Dogs happened.
Like... I don't like. Let's take a look at his. I got his name right here. Let's click on it. Let's see. Let's go back to 1995, Outbreak, and then he was in Losing Isaiah. I don't know anything about that. The Tuskegee Airmen, which was a big HBO movie in 95. 1996 is Jerry Maguire, which he got the Academy Award for. Then he was in Trading Favors, which I've heard of. As Good as It Gets, which is a really good movie. What Dreams May Come, which I really enjoyed back when it came out. I've heard I will not like it if I go back
to that.
Yeah, that's why I haven't gone back, because I heard it's terrible. But I'm like, I really like that movie. I loved it. I kind of cried when it was on. And he's just in Welcome to Hollywood, A Murder of Crows, Instinct, Chill Factor, The Kid, Men of Honor, which was terrible. That's the Robert De Niro, Cuba Gooding Jr. African-American Navy diver movie. It gets really racist, but like that's the point of the movie. And then he was in Pearl Harbor. He's in Rat Race, In the Shadows. He was in Zoolander? I don't remember him in Zoolander, but Snow Dogs, Boat Trip, Fighting Temptations, Radio, which I saw in theaters.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, man. That is a lot of time I will never see again. And he is just, like that was it. Like, he was in Radio, and then he just kind of gave up. Daddy Day Camp, which I think is the sequel to Daddy Daycare. American Gangster, he's in. I don't remember him in that, but that's a really good movie, but I don't remember him in it. So
he was in that O.J. Simpson show,
which he got a lot of acclaim for. So that's good. And then he played Cuba Gooding Jr. in Big Time in Hollywood, Florida, which I know nothing about. But yeah, that O.J. Simpson thing is like the only thing that he's gotten any kind of positive reviews for in the last forever. He was in Selma from 2014, but I never saw that. I don't know much about it other than it's supposed to be good.
Seeing as how we've been doing an hour and a half of the show and we still got other stuff to do, maybe we don't need more of Cuba Gooding Jr. corner.
Other things that Cuba Gooding Jr. has been in include Boys in the Hood, which was the first time I saw a boob in a movie. I'll always remember that. Boys in the Hood. So that's exciting for me. And finally, Kevin Spacey is in this movie. And this was back when Kevin Spacey was amazing. Back when you were able to like Kevin Spacey for not being a monster of a person. And you're just like, man, like this is right before he really made it big. I think it's just before LA Confidential came out, but he's quite good in this movie. And you're watching him, you're like, this guy's got something. You just like, this guy's got something. And now he's a monster, which is just disappointing. Anyway, so Outbreak is a story of basically Ebola gets into America, and America's the only place that matters anywhere. And the virus is in this small California town, and Dustin Hoffman has to stop it. Donald Sutherland thinks it's a biological weapon that they have, so he wants to keep it. And Morgan Freeman's caught in the middle. And spoiler alert. for Outbreak, after the military drops the bomb on this town to kill everyone, Morgan Freeman steps in to say, Donald Sutherland, you're relieved of command. and then that's how the movie ends, and you're like, that's too late, Morgan Freeman. The plane dropped its bomb. It's too, I mean, I understand the significance of what you're doing. You're still 2 minutes too late. Like the bomb is already blown up. For all you know, the town is, it hasn't been destroyed? Okay. But this movie's great. I love this movie. If you haven't seen Outbreak, you should watch Outbreak. I don't know how it stands up to today's scrutiny, but it's a 90s action thriller drama, according to IMDb. And It's about germs, and everyone was afraid of viruses, and we only care about America, much like with our current situation, where we only cared until it got into America. At least Americans, or a majority of America, only cared until it got into America. Oh, this wasn't real. This wasn't actually a thing, at least according to the administration. Anyway, Matt, have you anything to add about Outbreak?
I have seen this movie twice. I saw it once when it first came out on, I guess back then it was VHS. And then maybe like 15 years ago, I saw it again. And the only thing I remember is this is the movie where someone's suit rips, right? Like they get a tear in their suit and they're worried about getting the disease. That's all I remember. Is that scene. So I feel like that must have been a pretty effective scene, but that's all I remember.
It is very effective. And the whole time that happened, I watched both of these movies today, Outbreak and Contagion. Big mistake. And but I watched Outbreak, and when it's Kevin Spacey's whose suit tears, and you're just like, why would they engineer it that way? You're like, why? Like, he just takes a bad step, and the hose he's connected to, and like the super CDC lab, or like the biohazard lab tears, and you're like, well, that just seems like a terrible design flaw. Like, why don't you separate the body from like the waist from the head? Like, why aren't those two separate systems? But anyway, that's what I thought of. But I love this movie. I have seen this movie probably 50 times. I love it. I think it's great. I love the climax of the movie where Cuba Gooding Jr. and Dustin Hoffman are in the helicopter in the way of the airplane, and they're like, we're not moving. We're not moving. I think that's just great. It's thrilling. Even today, I was like, yeah, damn right, you're not moving. I wonder if they're going to slam into you. And, I know how it ends. And according to IMDb, this is the 14th most popular movie on IMDb right now, which is insane.
That doesn't surprise me.
I wonder what Contagion is at. Contagion is number 1. Holy shit.
It's up there.
That's great. People are ridiculous.
You watched it.
I did it for the people who are ridiculous.
I
did it for them. The people. You, the people. That was Bane. And so I love this movie. If you haven't seen this movie,
are we talking about Contagion now?
No, we're still in Outbreak.
Oh.
Go back and watch Outbreak again, because it's great. It gets corny. It could easily be a half hour shorter. The love story does not need to be there at all. And the government conspiracy thing, like I said, doesn't need to be there, but without it, you would have no third act. So, whatever. It's fun. So, Outbreak. Super great. Now, Contagion from 2011, directed by Steven Soderbergh and starring the entire world of Hollywood. From from Matt Damon to Gwyneth Paltrow to Lawrence Fishburne, Jude Law. Everyone is in this movie. If they were in an Ocean's 11 movie, they're probably in this somewhere. And Matt, you famously despise this movie.
Yeah. Because this movie thinks it's amazing. This movie is so goddamn proud of itself. It's repulsive.
This movie is amazing.
It would be fine if it didn't think it were the best thing in the world.
This movie deserves to be proud of itself. This movie is wonderfully shot. It's fantastically accurate, and it is, especially in literally this week's time span, we are at a quarter of the way into the movie Contagion. Like, I had to stop watching this movie halfway through it because something was going on in my house, and I went upstairs and I said to my wife, we have to get our shit together. I'm like this is like the lines from this movie. I feel like the current political administration, like the Trump administration, just took the script from Contagion and are just reading lines from it. Mm-hmm. There's literally a part later in the movie where it's either Bryan Cranston or Lawrence Fishburne is saying, we need to practice social distancing, wash your hands, everyone just be smart about their interactions, stay away from each other. And it is almost word for word what all our health professionals are saying right now. And God damn it, this movie got to me. It got to me so hard. It got to me so bad. Just like the whole time I'm watching this, I'm like, oh man, this is amazing. This really shows us where we're headed. This is really where we're gonna go. I'm not looking forward to the next few weeks. And how did Matt not like this movie? What was Matt's problem? How did Matt not think this is the most amazing movie of all time? Like, I'm like watching it, I'm just like, how did you hate this movie? Like, this was just above Aquaman on your list for so long before you begrudgingly gave it up. Like, even to the point where, like, even Jude Law is Alex Jones in 2011. Like, this movie feels so, like, prescient of the modern environment where it's like some internet guy is going to, like, control the way people think, and he's going to try to sell you a cure with his magic toothpaste. And I'm just like, oh man, this movie is so effing accurate. Oh God, I can't get enough of it. Like, I'm just like, oh, give me more movie. Give me more. Oh God. I loved it. I love this movie. This movie is fantastic. Except for the Marilyn Cotillard part. That movie doesn't make any sense. That part doesn't make any sense other than like Stockholm Syndrome. But if you don't remember that, then
I don't
blame you for not remembering. It's very forgettable.
Is she Jude Law's ex or something?
No. She's just a random, like, she works for the World Health Organization, and she gets assigned to figure out where the virus came from. And she gets teamed up with this, I don't want to say Chinese, and he's the guy from The Dark Knight who's really good with calculation.
Oh, okay.
And I can't tell if he is from China or Hong Kong in this movie, but he speaks Chinese, and he is her translator. And basically, he kidnaps her. And then over the next 180 days or whatever, she becomes sympathetic to their cause and is like, well, we're just going to get you the vaccine then.
Man, that does not sound familiar at all.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be in the movie. It's pretty useless and a little distracting from the overall plot. But the movie itself is it's just an hour 46. As it is, and it's pretty tight. It moves real quick, and I loved it. I love this movie. I cannot understand how you hated this movie. I cannot wrap my head around it.
I mean, I could. I'm just gonna keep saying the same thing. In and of itself, it's not a terrible movie, but it's so self-congratulatory.
I disagree. I completely disagree.
Well, okay.
I accept your apology.
You are allowed to disagree.
And so, all right. So this show's gone on long enough. I don't have any other movies to talk about. Matt,
yeah.
I guess it's time for our movie rankings list. You have so many to add to your list this week.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I'll go through ITonya. So, wait. First, right?
Hold on. Let me pull up the text message where I explained to you how the movie ranking thing is going to work. Did you get that?
Yeah, I couldn't follow it.
I'm going to read it word for word and not say anything else about it. Okay, so here we go. I figured out the movie ranking math. Should work out nicely. I emailed you links to the Google spreadsheet if you want, but here's how it goes. So we take your total score without the what do category and divide it by 5 to get a number out of 5 number. Then it goes in order. It has the same score as another movie on the list. The deciding factor is what movie gets the higher position is the difference between what I thought you would give the movie and what you actually gave it. So if the score you gave a movie averaged out to be a 4.1 and I thought you would give it a 3.5, that's a difference of 0.6. And another movie you saw also averaged out to be a 4.1, but I thought you would give it a 4. It has a difference of 0.1. So the 0.1 gets the higher spot.
All right.
You want to know what's really crazy about that is it took me like 10 times as long to type that out.
Oh, I believe it.
And you never responded
nope.
to it.
I had no idea what was going on there. I read it twice and I was like, nope, that didn't make any more sense the second time.
I sent you the link. You can see where your movies end up.
All right. Well, what do you guess that I'm going to give ITonya?
I think you'll give this movie a 3.
All right, let's see. So story-wise, ITonya is going to get, I guess like a 3.5. That sounds about right. Yeah, it's definitely a bit higher than a 3, but definitely not a 4 because it's not quite engrossing. But even though it's pretty steady in its tone and everything, it does hang together pretty well. It does to kind of set you up for ending up where the movie, I think, wants you to be. Acting. I got to give this movie like a 4.5 on the acting. It's really good.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, acting's really good. Pacing, I guess there's nothing wrong with it, but nothing about it that really makes it feel like it's moving much throughout, so I'll give that a 3. The aesthetics are effective, but they're nothing special. I'm going to give that a 2.5. And enjoyment, I think I'll give it a 3. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's probably going to average out higher than I thought, so that's cool.
Maybe a little bit.
All right. So that's all the movies you saw this week.
That is.
I saw a bunch. All right, Matt, what do you think I would give Outbreak?
I think you'll give a 4.
So Outbreak, I'm going to give the plot of this movie a 3.5. It's pretty contrived, pretty generic. Acting, this movie gets a 4, an easy 4. Pacing, the movie does really move along until kind of the end. I'm going to make it a 4. It gets a 4 for pacing because I love this movie. It gets bonus credit. I'm going to take that back. 3.5. And that's just going to go into my enjoyment of this movie. Aesthetic, it is a really well shot movie. It has a lot of practical. I think everything in it is a practical effect, except for a couple of blue screen things that you can really tell. Like there's this one scene where you're looking up at like 40 helicopters flying across this town and you go, no, that's not 40 helicopters. But for the most part, it's all real helicopters, whereas in a modern movie, it would be all CGI helicopters, which is always distracting. So for aesthetic, I'm going to give this movie a 3.5. And for enjoyment of this movie, it gets a 4.5. I love Outbreak. All right, so let's go to the other side of the spectrum. Matt, What do you think I'm going to give Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom?
I think you'll give it a 1.5.
That's what I was thinking you would guess. Plot, this movie gets a 0.5. Acting, it gets, I want to say a 1. Not because of the little girl, because she's just terrible.
Yeah.
And that's not really her fault. Like, I don't blame a little kid for her acting, but she's got no business being in this movie. Pacing, I will say the movie does move along. I would give it a 2. The general aesthetic, it is really well shot. Like, it looks fantastic. The special effects in this movie are much better than they were in the first Jurassic World. A lot of these dinosaurs look phenomenal, especially the Indoraptor. Like, it looks really real to the point where I couldn't tell what the difference between if there was an animatronic or a CGI animal in some spots. Like, there are a lot of times where you can tell it's clearly a CGI, but sometimes I was like, did they really make a dinosaur for this? So from a technical standpoint, I'm going to give it a 3.5. Like, it's a really well-made movie. But for enjoyment, I'm going to give this a 0.5. I hated this. Matt, Tarzan the Ape Man.
Man.
We think I'm going to give Tarzan the Ape Man, which is fun, which is a fun question because if I hadn't watched Cats, I can guarantee you it would be a higher score.
A 1?
Plot for this movie.
There is.
I'm going to give it a 1 because the first half of it at least makes sense. Actually, I'm going to give it a 1.5. Because the first half makes sense, and you're on board. The acting, it gets a 1 because Richard Harris is quite good in this movie. That's it. Pacing, it gets a 1 because it just gets ridiculous. The aesthetic, I'm going to give a 0.5 because even though it looks like we're shooting on location, it looks terrible. Everything looks very flat. Everything looks very bland. It looks like we shot from the bank of the river on the other side of the river. Everything just looks very uninspired. And as far as the overall enjoyment of this movie, see, now this is a difficult question because if we were 17 and we had time and I was like, Matt, we're going to watch this Tarzan movie and you're going to sit there and you're going to take it. Like, I would be like, this is amazing. This is the best. This is the best day of my life. Making you watch this movie because you'd be so uncomfortable. That's why I was texting Matt after it was over. I was like, just watch the last 10 minutes of it, and you'll get like a taste of what it's like. But like, I got no enjoyment from this movie at all. It's not sexy. It's not fun. You don't feel like you're on an adventure. You don't feel like you're having an exciting time with Tarzan. You don't feel like you're lost in the wilds of Africa. You just feel like you're stuck with Bo Derek, who has one acting mode, which is bite my fingernails because I guess this is how you look nervous. And I guess I'll yell for my daddy. This movie gets a 0.5 for enjoyment. I hated this movie. Matt.
Yeah.
What will you think I will give the movie Contagion?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that one. 4.5.
So plot for this movie, I'm going to give this 5 stars. This is a very realistic plot, especially in the 2020 mindset. Like, everything about this movie feels so real that it could be happening right now. Essentially, we're in the first quarter of Contagion right now. We are 3 states entering quarantine away from being halfway through Contagion, where the riots start happening. So take that for what you will. That's my opinion on it. Acting in this movie, I think this gets 4.5. Lawrence Fishburne kind of feels like he's mailing it in a little bit, but he's also supposed to be kind of reserved, so I don't know. Pacing for this movie, 5 stars. This movie flies by. It's fantastic. Aesthetic for this movie, I'm going to give it a 4. There's a lot of color temperature stuff going on, which I think is very distracting, and it's supposed to explain where you are. Like, a lot of the northern stuff is very blue. Like Matt Damon's whole storyline and much of Kate Winslet's storyline takes place in Minnesota, where it's very cold, so everything's very blue. And Lawrence Fishburne is in Atlanta, which is, usually very warm, so everything's very orange. And there are a lot of color temperatures in between. But, I mean, I get it. I just found it very distracting, color temperature-wise. Like, there's this one point where Matt Damon is, like, pulling a gun on a teenager to protect his daughter out in the snow, and you're just like, wow, this screen is really blue. Like, everything is very blue. It's the opposite of what Mexico looks like in a Steven Soderbergh movie. And so, I take points off for that, but I don't really blame it, because how else do you make stuff look cold other than blue? But enjoyment of this movie, straight up 5. This movie gets a 5. Super great. Matt, what do you think I'm going to give Cats, the movie? A 1. Plot. There isn't one. There is less of a plot in this movie than those Lonely Island movies that I've talked about in the last couple of weeks. There is nothing going on. I have no idea what the plot of this movie was other than to get to cat heaven. So I'm giving it a 0.5. Acting. Some really good moments. I'm going to give acting a 2. These actors do as much as they possibly can with this garbage script as they can. Like the Ian McKellen segment, he kills it. He slam dunks it. The main girl, who I think this is her first movie, and she's like a ballerina, like she's like a famous ballerina. I'd never heard of her, but she does a great job, especially with that one song I really liked. So the acting in this movie is great. Like, the actors should not be blamed for the performance their computer generated images turned in. Pacing. This movie gets 0.5. I got no idea what was going on with this movie. No clue. It never ended, especially at the end when Judi Dench is just literally talking at the camera about what a cat is. Aesthetic, I would give it a 1. I'm going to give it a 1.5 for aesthetic, because it definitely feels like it's back in time. Like, it takes place in the 30s or something. I don't really know. But it looks good. It looks expensive, except for when it looks really cheap. Like, there are so many unfinished effects. But I will give it a 1.5, just because they did put a lot of effort into the cat ears. The ears on the cats. Those look really good. I thought not having human ears would be unbelievably distracting. Not so much. The cat ears look great. So There you go. Enjoyment, this movie gets a 0.5. That might go up when I inevitably force you to watch this movie, but for right now, it's a 0.5. I hated every goddamn minute of this experience of watching this movie. I hated it.
Well, you gave this movie a 1.
That's great. All right, Matt, anything for Midwest Matt recommends this week?
Yeah, there's a sister podcast to I Hate It But I Love It called The Villain Was Right. And it's
really?
Yeah, it's hosted by the husband or the boyfriend, I guess, of one of the hosts of I Hate It But I Love It. So it's another 2 Canadian hosts, male and female, get along real well. Good chemistry, funny, and their premises, they're always talking about a movie where they're like, hey, you know, this antagonist is actually on the right side of things. Let's see here. I can tell you what the first episode was. More recent one was iRobot. It's called The Villain Was Right. The very first episode was Wayne's World. And so I've seen like Deadpool 2, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Avengers of Infinity War. And it's just saying like, yeah, you know, watch the movie from the villain's perspective because they actually are right. And they basically end up talking a lot about how like the protagonists are dicks in every movie. But it's good. Good review material, good jokes, pretty likable people.
All right, that's cool. Yeah. I have recently checked out 2 of your previous recommendations. I Hate It But I Love It, which is the sequel or sister show to the show you just talked about. And what's the other one about real crimes?
Oh, Red-Handed.
Red-Handed. And the Red-Handed show, I was listening to the other night as I fell asleep, and it was scary. Like, I was like, listening to it, and I was listening to it, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of scary. I'm not really feeling this, but, you know, I'm on board. But I'm like, my eyes are closed, and I'm falling asleep. And while that's happening, I feel like a little itch at my side, like on the side of my hip, and I go, oh, what's that little itch I got? Oh, that's nothing. Just ignore it. Just listen to your show as you fall asleep. That itch is moving up. I guess I'll scratch it. And it was a bug. There's a bug on my hip. I'm pretty sure it was a stink bug, but I don't know what it was because I grabbed it and threw it across the room, and I've never seen it again. But I screamed and I yelled, and I woke up my wife and my 2 daughters who sleep in our room. And my wife's like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I'm like, oh, it's just I think it was a bug on my hip. But I was listening to something really scary on my headphones, so it bothered me. She goes, turn your damn headphones off and go to sleep, and rolled over and went back to bed. So that was fun.
So make sure you check out Red-Handed.
Yeah, it's good. It's very good. All right, if you want to send us an email and tell us what you saw in movies this week, perhaps you've been stuck at home for the past 14 days, and you've watched a lot of movies, unlike Matt, who I thought saw so many. And
could you imagine if I had watched a bunch of movies? We're on 2 hours now.
I would have really stuck to the time limit of 7 minutes per movie. I would have stuck to it. I was so positive we were going to get out of here in an hour and a half. Send us an email at thisweekinfilmpodcast@gmail.com or contact us on all the social networks. Mac, do you have anything else to add?
Nope.
All right, well, if that is the end of the reel, we'll see you next week in film.
And remember, judge movies, not people.
And practice social distancing. Don't go near anybody.
Yeah,
although
stay safe.
I did get to speak Spanish to a guy at a supermarket the other day because he was trying to buy Lysol and they were all sold out. And he showed me a picture of Lysol, and I said, no. Difícil, which is Spanish for difficult. And then he went, see, and walked away. I went, oh, slam dunk on today. Today was a good day.
All right, then.
Because I got to be a superhero. Because I spoke a separate language. I helped the guy.
You're a superhero because the guy asked you where something was and you said, no, it's difficult.
Yeah.
Okay, then.